Hey guys, and welcome to another brand new video. In this video, we actually have some pretty big news when it comes to a pretty big failure of the PlayStation 5 on one of their upcoming games, and as well kind of also the, I guess, community feedback and pushback when it comes to the fact of, well, a lot of things are not really going so well, and it's not really helping out their cause in the future. So we're going to talk about the PlayStation 5 and how some of these exclusives have, well, kind of completely dropped the ball, and, well, we can also even talk about the fact that Xbox somehow was able to go and sweep on through and kind of had a better deal for even some of these two as well. So make sure you guys are if you guys are brand new, make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on. We have the Twitter and Twitch stream down below. We have the whole weekend ahead of us, so you guys have a fantastic weekend. And of course, Target Amazon links. Do leave a like and your thoughts down below, and let's dive into the video itself. So in case you guys did not know, we've actually seen quite a few different kind of unique-ish type style games coming to the PlayStation 5 first. Some good examples I think on this is more on like say the Deathloop, which was technically a Bethesda-based game, or things like Square Enix's Forspoken, which was technically an exclusive when it comes to the game itself, and also not an Xbox, but sadly a lot of these are very not so good. Now we'll talk about this and how we have some pretty big failures, as well as also the future and organization of different things too as well. So, well, let's start off with this one very first, where the Square Enix actually said, and this was kind of, I think, apparent based on the Twitch views and YouTube viewership and everything else, that Square Enix says that Forspoken's launch sales were lackluster. Now, it's gotta make sense. We've actually been seeing some kind of mediocre stuff. Even when it came to Ratchet and Clank, I think that was a bit on the mediocre side, as well as also Deathloop as well, which they were still good games. And also a good example is also like Ghostwire Tokyo. They were all technically solid games. They were not necessarily too bad, but they weren't really like, the crazy games selling 50 million copies and being like console sellers. They were there. They were okay. They had their problems, but especially for something like Square Enix's Forspoken, there's a lot of issues with it. Like, I actually myself had a press copy and press key for the game itself. It was okay. I enjoyed the first few hours, but after that, I was like, I just don't care. I don't care about the ending. I don't care about the characters. I don't care about anything. It was cool, but I felt like I got the gist of it. And as well, it's also kind of brings into some bigger issues too with Square Enix, where basically for these PlayStation 5 games, and these failures are a little bit on the scarier side. They say challenging reviews contribute to an underwhelming commercial debut for Forspoken. Now, Square Enix, first and foremost, has been kind of, in the drama a lot this past, 24 hours or so, where Square Enix has admitted that early Forspoken sales have been, disappointing. The debut game for the Square Enix's Luminous production studio was released on January 24th to middling reviews, with its Metacritic score currently sitting at a 64 on PS5 and only a 63 on PC. Now, I thought the game wasn't bad, but I definitely don't think it was good. Speaking during a financial result briefing on February 3rd, an English transcript has only today been published, Square Enix president Yasuki Matsuda said sales of the game had been lackluster following challenging reviews. However, the game has also received positive feedback on its action features, including its parkour and combat abilities, so has yielded results that will lead to improvement of our development capabilities of other games in the future. Now, they're trying to go have more of a glass half full type of vibe, which I can appreciate, but it does kind of seem like this game, needed a little bit more. It definitely was a little bit lackluster. It was definitely a little bit weird. I don't know how to go and say this, but it just really wasn't that good. I could appreciate them trying to think, say, for parkour in the future. I thought the parkour was kind of mediocre. I didn't really like that in the game. I thought it was kind of bad. Or the combat capabilities, there was a lot of spamming. It was not the worst, but it could have been way better. And it kind of goes to show that Square Enix is a little bit in trouble. Now, mainly because we've been seeing a lot of lackluster games, a lot of other various games doing very poorly. Not there being too many proper games, besides, say, the Final Fantasy series that are being people are looking forward to, as an overall kind of mediocre. So they said that sales has been lackluster, and while the performance of new titles and with February and March release dates and within the ultimate deterrent, we will see considerable downside risk to our basically earnings as well. A month after Forspoken's release, it was announced that developer Luminous Productions will also be fully merged into Square Enix this May, which might be a good or bad. Maybe good on the fact of, Square Enix itself as a company, I don't know, it's, you never want to have your own individual studio that has own production values and stuff like that kind of get absorbed into it. It's never a good sign. It's basically we just know you can't go and be standalone and you kind of drop the ball in a game. We're going to probably have to go and, kind of merge you on in. And as you guys know, Square Enix is a very close tie into with PlayStation, and these PlayStation exclusives are, haven't really been doing too hot. So Square Enix Co. Ltd. has developed numerous AAA high-definition games and possesses a wealth of intellectual property and content, the company said. Luminous Productions Co. is meanwhile equipped not only with AAA title development capabilities, but also technical expertise in areas such as game engine development. Combined, the two entities will further enhance the group's ability to develop HD games. Now, Now, I like this because at least they are kind of realizing and kind of reshaping, like they made the game. They maybe realized it wasn't the biggest game or whatever, but still, it's kind of just weird. So Loomis has just released a new Forspoken update promising improved optimization, refined visuals, reward targeting, and more. And the studio is currently working on DLC for the game titled In Tanta We Trust as well, which will be released this summer. Square Enix just recently announced too as well to replace President Matsuda as well. And you guys can kind of go and see with all this game, it's kind of going a bit on the scarier side. But it doesn't only go and stop over here, where NFTs have also been kind of going into these big pushes, where the Square Enix boss itself was really disappointed with Forspoken sales, as just covered, but for weirdly enough, they're still excited for some NFT games. The Final Fantasy maker played all the greatest hits on the recent earnings call, which we just covered over there. So if you guys have heard, they're disappointed the sales for Tomb Raider, Hitman, Outriders, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Forspoken to add to it, and for basically Square Enix has just been having issues everywhere. They were saying that the most recent earnings call that sales of the magical realist action RPG were lackluster. On the upside, he said he hopes people will look forward to NFT games launching in the next year, which I'm not so much myself. So reviews of Forspoken, which were released on January 24th, have been challenging, he said in these earnings briefings, and a lot of folks, especially like a month later, are probably a little bit more on the hardcore side. They realize that there's a lot of issues, a lot of problems, and a lot of PlayStation, because it is technically a PlayStation exclusive, having issues too. So even had Warner go and tweet stating, Square Enix Yasuka Matsuda. We also hope that you will look forward to the blockchain games we plan to launch in the fiscal year and thereafter, which is kind of crazy because they're still doubling down on these big issues. Now, I don't mind if you want to get into crypto or NFTs or all these other things. I get it. I totally get it. But one of the bigger issues with this is, well, I don't know, just if everything else is falling and you're also then trying to go and triple down on something that's already risky as is and kind of out of the meta already, what's kind of the point? So basically, the Square Enix CEO said that ask if its upcoming state of games this year, basically with Final Fantasy among them too as well, the Final Fantasy 16, is perhaps too good because of how are they going to grow a year after that? The relentless pressure for publicly traded companies to grow. Notice that Matsuda hypes the pleaser to please the questioner, basically saying yeah, we have a lot of cool stuff coming, especially on the NFT side, which I mean maybe long term might be a good call. Maybe 5-10 years down the line, it might not be that bad, but still it's a little bit sketchy side. And elsewhere in the meeting, who is also currently set to be replaced, the CEO himself, said that HD game sales were down year over year, probably due to not having new Final Fantasy expansion last year, but also because many of the new small and mid-sized titles we launched this year did not perform as well as they expected. So a good example of that was there's a lot of RPGs, maybe too many, with the Dialfield Chronicle, never heard of, Valkyrie and Slesium, I've heard of, Star Ocean, heard of, Hearth of Stella, heard of, and I've not seen the other ones too as well, although Crisis Core wasn't awful, still never actually beat it myself. And also there's also a big thing too that just these sales have just not been so big. Some of these, I don't know, there's so much more options, so much better stuff that could have been out there. And there are a lot of RPGs. RPGs are fun, but they also take 100 hours to beat. And if you can't even beat one, you're not going to probably want to go buy another one too as well afterwards. So saying, I see it's time for another round of why do Square games not sell discourse? And the answer is not that they need to make less or bigger games because they're galactically bad at marketing. Why is Octopath Traveler 2 not doing so well as OT1, Bravery Default 2, Triangle Strategy, and Alive, even though it's multi-platform and a better game? Nintendo published all these other games worldwide and gave them prime direct real estate and promotion. Pretty simple. Which also makes sense too. They've kind of been slacking on the whole promotion-wise. So when it comes to anything outside of Final Fantasy, Square Enix seems hesitant to take big swings or roll out the red carpet for when it does, which also does affect stuff. If you're not going hardcore in the promotion and the marketing, the emails, and the PlayStation State of Plays or these Nintendo events, people are not going to really care about the game. It was also kind of funny though because they tried it with Forspoken, and Forspoken was just a mediocre game. It wasn't bad, it could have been worse, but it was kind of on the middle. It could have been way better. And at the same time, they have all this kind of outside drama of all these other games not doing so good besides maybe Final Fantasy, and then they're just trying their best to go hardcore on NFTs. As you guys can see, the rest of the game industry is kind of backed off and they're chilling and they don't want to go too much into it. It's kind of weird because Square Enix is a somewhat Japanese-based type style company. They're still rolling with it. They're still let's just go commit to it. And I'm not really sure why, because people obviously don't love it. I'm indifferent, and I feel like I'm kind of more on the crypto minded versus most other YouTubers or Twitch streamers or whatever, and it's kind of crazy to see. So we just want to see them actually have good games. They say they have good games in the pipeline. They're actually going to be releasing games in the future, and they want to look at this stuff overall, but it's a little bit on the sketchier side too because, well, they're losing their games. People aren't buying the games. They're kind of losing faith in them besides Final Fantasy. And they're even having some of their proper studios get kind of rolled into like their main studio again. So I'm not really sure what their plans are. I'm not really sure their vibes. It's kind of all over the place at the end of the day. And I'm not really sure exactly what's going on. So give me your thoughts and comments, because this PlayStation exclusive did not do well. People are really worried. And I think the future of Square Enix might be a little more sketchier than we all think. Your thoughts and comments down below, with the Twitter and Twitch room down below, the Target links down below, Amazon links down below, and I appreciate y'all so much for watching here in the first place.